Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am currently on vacation until July 29th. So what I did was I pre-recorded a bunch of great interviews and fantastic conversation with so many wonderful guests. You will continue to see them posted over the duration of when I am away. So I can't thank you enough for still tuning in. And real quickly, before we dive into it, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up button as well. It goes a long way. And secondly, if you are looking to buy tickets for any event out there, if you are a new user to SeatGeek, you get $20 off of your purchase by utilizing the promo code Brodes. That's $20 off of your tickets. It eliminates those fees. It's a no-brainer. Thank you all so much and enjoy the show.
Brodes Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Schmoozed. I am joined again by Anthony Sanfilippo, Crossing Broad. Phenomenal job covering the Flyers. What's up, Ant?
Hey, not much, Brodes. How are you, bud?
Oh, you know, living the dream. Living the dream. I was definitely way more intrigued by the Flyers about 2 weeks ago compared to where I am now. I'm just pissed off, honestly. I don't even know how to wrap my head around what happened during the early stages of free agency. There's no way you could convince me that Delorier for that type of contract is worth it. There's no way you could tell me Chuck Fletcher stating that they added to the blue line by bringing back Justin Braun. You didn't add to it if you're bringing back another piece that was already here last year. So I don't know, man. Me and you, we talk a lot. We normally feel better than most about maybe a turnaround, but we're joining the gang here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are a little bit. I mean, I can't, you know what the thing of it is I can't find one person who's happy. Like, if I can find one person who's like, oh, well, they're still going to be okay. They're going to be good. It's like, this isn't okay. This is a good thing that they didn't blow all their money on Gaudreau and then be stuck for, with salary cap problems for the next 8 years. Like, nobody's saying that. Like, if somebody was saying that, maybe I can listen to it and you can give me a rational explanation. Like, okay, I can kind of see that. But when and I've never seen a fan base ever 100% in agreement with each other, ever, and they are all in agreement right now that this is a mess. This is a disaster. I don't know how else to look at it. I really don't. People keep asking me, like, what are they doing? I say, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. And, the thing of it is, like, there's so many people in there who would, leading up to, free agency and everything, like, here's what we're thinking about. Here's what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And we talk off record and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, it just stopped. And, like, everybody was like, what? And even the people who are our sources come to us and say, we don't know what the hell's going on. What do you mean you don't know what the hell's going on? You've been a great source for years. Now, all of a sudden, you don't know what the hell's going on? Like, it's wild to me right now. I don't know how to explain it.
No, I'm right there with you. Dave Scott told us at the end of last year that they were going to have the aggressive retool. And I was one of few that said, okay, I don't want to blow it up. I don't want to be the Chicago Blackhawks. I want an aggressive retool. So you go out and you land a Tony Deangelo. And, okay, I mean, maybe that says a lot about where Ryan Ellis is and all. And okay, and I'm sure maybe we'll touch on that in a little bit. But adding a Tony Deangelo who can help out this power play, and maybe they end up being like the Rangers. You can't score 5-on-5, but they can actually produce on the paper. Give me that any day of the week. The Rangers had a nice run, whatever the case may be. But you bring in Tony D, and it's like, okay, you do that. If you added a Gaudreau to Tony D, that's an aggressive retool. When you bring in Delorier for 4 years, that's a disaster. How can you make that deal? I don't know how. That deal itself, it doesn't matter if you made 9 million deals that were great in a row. That deal itself is fireable. This guy's a goon, and he sucks.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's worst offensive player in hockey. And he's here for 4 years. Or at least 2. He's got no. They gave him a no movement clause.
I was just gonna say that. Every day you get something worse and worse about this deal. You know what? Tomorrow we might hear that it's a 10-year deal.
That he's got some kind of crazy ass signing bonus for July 1 next year. Yeah, who knows, right? Who knows what it's going to be? No, it doesn't make any sense, bro. It makes no sense at all. And the thing of it was like it was moving along in that general direction, right? The trade for Deangelo, they gave up 3 draft picks for him. Okay, 3 draft picks. Now, granted, it's one each year over the course of the next 3 years, so it's not like it's a bulk package.
I was okay with it based off of what other assets they had in each of those years.
Correct. And exactly, it's exactly how if you break it down and look at the other assets in those years, it was okay. I mean, maybe a slight overpay, but not a major one, okay? But at least you look at it and say, okay, they're giving up 3 pieces of the future for a player to help right now. Then you buy out Oscar Lindblom. There's $3.33 million that's going to help right now. Okay, we're on our way. Like, this is the path towards the aggressive retool. And then it was just, we weren't going to plan them. We weren't doing anything. We were never in on Gaudreau. This is what we always wanted to do. We always wanted to bring back Justin Braun and sign Nick Delorier. That was what we wanted to do.
Like, how can you say you weren't in? See, the thing is, they're trying to make it seem they weren't in on him because they didn't get him. But are they so unaware on how stupid it is to say that you're not involved in one of the biggest free agents who is begging to be in this city? Like, isn't that worse than saying I wanted him but I failed and couldn't get him? Like, honestly, wouldn't you rather say I screwed up and I wish we got him but I could? Doesn't that look better than saying you're not in on a guy?
You're right, and I think what Chuck's doing is I think he is being a little bit overprotective of himself, in the sense that you don't want to talk about a player that's not your player. And I think that he knew at the time of that press conference that even though it hadn't been announced yet, that Johnny was signing with Columbus. So I think that Chuck probably knew that at that point. The fact of the matter is, though, is like all you had to say. You didn't even have to say anything about that particular player. You didn't have to say anything. You didn't have to mention Johnny's name. All you had to say was, listen, we were really adamant about trying to get involved in one of those big name players that were out there, one of the top end guys. We couldn't get the contract. We couldn't get a contract moved off of our books. We couldn't get the enough salary cap space, and it just didn't work out for us. So we had to pivot to what our backup plan was, and our backup plan was to do what we did. That's all you had to say, and at least you were honest about it. People may not be happy, but at least you say, okay, well, at least he told us the truth. Now, by saying you weren't in on it at all, come on. They were in on it. I know they were in on it. The people we talked to, we know what was being talked about. We know what was discussed. And now there's rumors coming out that there's going to be mentioned that there's going to be accusations of tampering coming out in the NHL and this and that and everything else because, people are talking before the deadline. Come on, guys. Like, this has been going on for years. See, we know this has been going on. We know that GMs talk to agents who talk to their players, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There had to be a conversation between Louis Gross and Chuck Fletcher prior to July 13th. There had to be. And if there wasn't, then Chuck Fletcher should not have a job on July 13th. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There had to be a conversation. So you had to be in on it.
All right, so many ways we could go here. I guess I'm trying to process it because part of me wants to go DeBrincat. How about, though, with JVR? If you could have moved JVR, and I know maybe it wasn't the 2024 Florida. If it was the 2023, would you have said no because of that hefty deal? See, the thing is, with where you currently are, and I know it's easier said than done because we're living in the moment right now. We have a lot of bottled up frustration because of what they didn't do. But I'd rather swing and miss being so aggressive and here's the thing. I'm saying hypothetically, if the Johnny Gaudreau move failed, and me saying failed, he's still going to be at worst, he's a good player. At worst, he's a good player, right? Like, are you debating if you're going to get an elite player more times than not compared to a good player? How bad can it be if you signed him for 7 years? It can't be that atrocious. So I'd rather swing and miss by giving up some assets and acquiring him to get some life back into this fan base compared to signing Delorier and bringing back Justin Braun. And clearly, they don't see it that way. But is that 2023 too much of value to make the decision in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'll tell you what. I mean, it did make me pause for a second, right? It did make me pause because we look at that. We hear everything we hear about this 23 draft is how generational a draft it is.
Well, you better get someone who's damn fucking good. I mean, if you're gonna this kid better be
suck
elite.
Hard from the guard, right? I mean,
yeah. Come on, Wait, what's that?
Suck
What?
hard for Bedard. You want Connor Bedard, right?
Yeah, I thought you said McCarr, and I'm like, did people make that one before and I didn't hear that? That's amazing.
No. So, but yeah, I mean, I think about it as, I think about it a second. But even then, I sit there and say, what are the odds? And I say this in anybody who says that they want to tank in basketball, football, or whatever. Well, football you can't really tank. I mean, you don't really tank in football, but basketball and hockey. And I say, even if you're putting yourself in a position to potentially get that first overall pick, it's still a lottery and it's still a percentage chance. And your percentage chance is less than 50, less than 40 in a lot of instances. Sometimes it's like 25%, 23, whatever it is. And they always change the rules, but it's always around 25% for the worst team. So not only do you have to be the worst team, but then once you are the worst team, then you only have a 25% chance of hitting that lottery. Why is that a better angle to go than to take the sure thing now? Like, I don't understand. It doesn't resonate with me, bros. I don't get it. And so, yeah, even after I would pause for a second and think about it, then I would still give away that first round pick in 23. I would, to get Johnny. I absolutely would, because you're going to get a player who is guaranteed offense for your team, as opposed to cross our fingers that we're the worst team and we get that pick.
I'm right there with you. How about DeBrincat? How about this a young, talented kid who can put up 40 goals twice so far in his young career? I mean, in what world are we sitting here? Is it an aggressive retool or is it a rebuild? What is the message and what is the answer here?
The only thing I will give them a pass on DeBrincat
he's going to run away.
Is the agent basically came out and said, we're not looking to sign an extension. We're not. We're going to play, and then we're going to test free agency. Now that could change. As you know, a guy comes into a new city, he's never played there before, falls in love with it, loves the place. Like, this is awesome. This is where I always want to be. And then he'll sign, and you take that risk. It's 2 years away, so you have 2 years to kind of mold Philadelphia for Alex DeBrincat. So you could make that. I mean, it's a gamble, but you could make that gamble. But at least I can sit there and say, all right, you don't want to give up the 5th overall pick where you have a player that you really kind of like. And we've talked about Cutter Gauthier. Like, there's a lot to like about this pick that the Flyers made. It was actually a pretty good pick. So maybe you sit there and go, we know what we have. We have something there that is going to be ours for a while. Do we want to give that up and cross our fingers that Alex DeBrincat wants to stay here? Again, you can get crazy, right? If you can sit there and say, screw it. Give up the 5th pick and get DeBrincat. Screw it. Give up the first round pick, move JVR's contract, and get Johnny Gaudreau. Like, you can do all that stuff. You can just balls to the wall, man, and just go get it. So, I mean, it's possible. But here's the thing I want to say about moving JVR's contract. Because I honestly don't believe that every team was unwilling to come off of the 2023 first round pick. Let's look at Anaheim. Anaheim is so far below the salary floor, not the cap, the floor. They need to fill, I think it's like $18 million to get to the floor. You give them JVR, that gives them 7. But here's the part about it that's a bonus for Anaheim. JVR gets a $1 million bonus on July 1st. The Flyers already paid it. The final year of JVR's contract is only $4 million. So Anaheim only would have to pay $4 million for 1 year for a player to get them $7 million closer to the floor. Are they really going to sit there and go, yeah, you know what? We ain't doing it unless you give us the first round pick next year? No, they need to do it. They need to do it. They'll do it for less. Like, I don't understand.
I'm following it completely on how obnoxious that is. I guess here's my ridiculous counterpoint, Dad, is making me, I don't know, my head's exploding right now internally. It would be, are they ran like Chuck Fletcher's run? Like, there's horrendous general managers out there. We see it as obviously, like, that's a logical thing that you're bringing up. Yeah. But because we're now experiencing what it's like to be under a Chuck Fletcher regime, how many Chuck Fletcher regimes are out there in the NHL where Anaheim is dealing with something similar, which is they have no idea what they're doing. So a team like Anaheim doesn't even see what you're laying out, which is an obvious thing to see. Yeah. Unless that's me just being like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at both sides here.
No, you might be right. You might be right. And it could be that general managers don't want to let competition off the hook so easily. And they look at it and we know what Chuck's trying to do. If Chuck's trying to, dump salary so that he can go and better his team by doing it, by signing a star player.
You're right, but you're almost giving Anaheim too much credit for what I brought. I'm almost saying they're just as dumb as Chuck, so they're just unaware and stupid. But that's all. If we're going to look at every angle here, I'm just saying, right? Like, here's another angle.
Hey,
there's multiple
prism.
different. Yeah,
it's a
there's
prism.
Multiple different layers. Here's reality, though. This is what we know. Chuck Fletcher ain't going to be here long. So at what point is it, let's move on? Because let's be realistic. The writing is on the wall. So why give him the power? Even though I don't mind bringing in Tony when we hear the news about Ryan Ellis and the skepticism of them all. But why even give him the power to move some of these future picks if he ain't going to be here?
I would fire him. I would have fired him already. I mean, you screw up this bad, take the wrong path. This is the one thing they could not do, and they did. Okay, this is the one thing they could not do, and they did. So to me, you should fire the guy. But here's the thing. I get the sense that the team or that the hockey ops has convinced Dave Scott, let's see how the season begins. Because you said something very important early on in this interview. When you talked about maybe they could be like the Rangers and be a power play specialist team, doesn't score at 5-on-5, is not really that great at 5-on-5, but because you're playing towards the system with a solid defense, right? I mean, the defensive core is not bad, and Carter behind him, and Torts always protects his goalies. That's the way his system works, is to protect goaltenders. Then maybe they get off to an okay start. Not saying they're going to come run out and be in first place in the Metropolitan Division. They're not, okay? But maybe they come out and they're like, you know what? Here's a team that looks a lot better than it looked at the end of last year. Now you see people are healthy. They got some players. Okay, see, this is working. You don't need to fire Chuck just yet. Maybe. I'm trying to come up with a solution as to why he's still here. I don't think he makes it past New Year. I just don't. I can't see it. But I understand why, or I think I understand why, they're not making the move right now.
It's just wild to me that I know that when you get in the moment, it's easier to react to what's happening and you think it's the worst ever because, well, you're experiencing it right now. I don't remember a worse point in Flyers history than this. So we can go back to the early mid-2000s, I guess, and I think we even touched on this together. We were trying to be optimistic that when they were bad in the mid-2000s, they responded with a great season and all. But and I've said that before. I have. I don't remember it ever getting to the point of paper brown bags on Twitter pictures blowing up as much as it did. The Flyer skate zone and Voorhees having the signs. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. And at some point, while I don't want you to think like a fan because you'll be in the stands like a fan type of mentality, you got to get a better pulse right now. And I don't know. Do they? You know more than me inside. Do they know?
Here's the thing. It is the worst. I mean, I have a little bit of age on you. Just a little bit. Not much. All right?
I feel old. I'll be honest with you. I got my first massage today, by the way. The woman who massaged me went, holy hell, I've never seen such a tense individual. Now, it was after wedding day, a lot of emotions going on. Yeah. Wasn't easy standing up there when everyone's looking at you. The amount of prop bets in the stands, I call it, even though they're pews, and that's probably horrendous, and I might be going to hell. Prop bets on if I was going to cry or not. Minus 300 plus. The amount of I feel my phone vibrating while I'm standing up there from all my friends in the pews. It's ridiculous. But anyway, continue. I don't even know where we're at. I have no idea what just happened.
That's all good. It's all good.
No idea.
The point is that I got a little bit of time on you.
That's right. That's where we were. Go ahead.
That's where we were. And I can tell you, this is the worst it's ever been for the Philadelphia Flyers. They've never been this low. And I mean that not necessarily in talent, but in the fact that the interest in this city, There's the hardcore fan base is pissed off beyond belief, and they're all 100% together in that anger. The casual fan doesn't care anymore. They've become irrelevant in their own city. And this was something that was pointed out. I did a Twitter space over the weekend, and one of the guys who hopped on the Twitter space came on and he said, for the longest time, the NHL relied on the Flyers to be like a go-to for the national game. Let's always put the Flyers and the Rangers on, or Flyers Penguins, Flyers Capitals. Always put the Flyers on. Or that they always thought of the Flyers as the other team that's not the original, like an original six team that's not an original six. And the league would always lean on the Flyers. But now, after just having record-setting revenue this past year and attendance numbers going up in most cities, and the Flyers plummeting down to the middle of the pack in that category, maybe they look at it and go, we don't need the Flyers. We don't need the Flyers. And now the Flyers, who have a national profile or have always had a national profile, maybe they start to lose that. Now that they're no longer a national profile team. So now you don't have that following nationally or internationally, as it were, with Canada as well. People in the casual fan in Philadelphia doesn't care anymore. And the hardcore fans are so apathetic and so pissed off. They're like, we're not going to show up and we're not giving you our money until you fix this. You're going to have empty arenas. If they average 10,000, and I say butts and seats, I don't want them, because they always fudge the number, bros. You know this, okay? I mean, you know that the number that they announce for the attendance is not the fucking attendance. It's just not, okay? The number is a drop count, and that's and it's very hard to get the drop count. It's a very secretive number, okay? You have to know people who are willing to give this to you and put their jobs on the line to tell it to you publicly. But the drop count is the number of people who actually walk through the turnstiles. If their drop count averages 10,000 a game, they should be thrilled, because I don't think it gets that high.
Whew. Once again, head spinning. I guess for me, I wonder, and maybe this is something personally that I do that's wrong, but when you talk about the logo and the national attention and the way that, you see the Flyers jerseys and you think of NBC Sports when it was on NBC, maybe it's a Channel 10 game or something along those lines where Doc Emmerich's on the call, whatever, a bigger moment. When I see the Red Wings, whether they suck or they don't suck, I have a connection with that logo that no matter if it's bad, Dylan Larkin, and that's it, or whatever it is, I still watch because their logo means something to me. And maybe that's flawed. Maybe I'm an outlier compared to the norm. But is it possible that how I feel about the Red Wings is how others feel about the Flyers, where nationally it won't matter how bad they are because it is a big market and it is a logo that does hold some weight in the large scheme of things?
Well, it's possible still. I mean, I still think it's possible, but
do you feel the same way, by the way, when you see a Red Wings logo?
Boston's, I think, is the one that really the spoked wheel of the B.
Yeah, but they're always good.
Well, now they weren't when I was your age.
But my whole life they've been not my whole life, but you get my point. I'm trying to bring up a team that. But I guess you're right. Yeah, when they stunk in your lifetime, it's just been so long since that's really been the case.
Playoffs every year when I was your age. I mean, you're always good.
You're right. And now we're experiencing horrendous. But I think you get my point here. It's late.
I do.
We're doing this late. We're doing this late. We're doing this late.
No, but I mean, I do get it.
I'm worried I'm going to hell for my last comment. So go ahead.
No, it's all good. But the thing of it is that I look at it and I say maybe that guy was onto something. Now, I'm not going to say the NHL is going to completely shut the Flyers out, right? I mean, obviously, people say it all the time. The league is better when the Flyers are good, right? I mean, it's just a thing. You want your big markets. You want your iconic teams to be good because it helps the league. But at the same time, maybe they're realizing that you don't necessarily need those teams to always be good. You look at who, Tampa Bay has been to the finals 3 years in a row. They're a marketable team right now in the NHL. Believe it or not, that a team down south, oh my God, can be a marketable team for the northern sport. So, I mean, you look at it and say, okay, well, Tampa's more marketable than Philadelphia right now. That's okay, as opposed to trying to shove the Flyers down your throat a little bit, even if they weren't good. I mean, how many times, I could take you back, I don't know, The last time ESPN had a contract prior to this one. So what was that, 15 years? Right, let's say 15 years. They would always try and put on Philly and New York. The Rangers weren't that great
Right.
at that time. They were okay, but they just weren't that great. But the Rangers were always going Rangers Capitals, Rangers Penguins, Rangers Devils, like Rangers, because they want to get New York on. And they would put LA on because, all right, well, we got to get that West Coast. And LA sucked. It didn't matter, but they were on all the time. So, like, that was what the league was trying to force upon you. They don't have to do that anymore. And that's a good thing for the league, but that's not necessarily a good thing for the Philadelphia Flyers is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it's all valid, I got one more for you as you wrap things up. I never got your actual opinion on Tony Deangelo being brought in here. And let's say there is no Ryan Ellis, so he's slotted in next to Provorov. You got Sanheim, you got Ristolainen, you got Cam York, you got Justin Braun. What are your thoughts on that type of 6D member? Real quickly, though, the fact that Chuck Fletcher spoke and he actually brought the name Nick Seeler up, with all due respect, what are we doing here, Chuck? I mean, like you have an image here, and you're first off facial expressions. You're rubbing. At one point, he put his hands in between his nose as if he couldn't take it anymore. That's horrible body language. Yeah. But you really thought it would be great to bring up a name like Nick Seeler, a 7th, 8th D-man kind of guy? What are we doing?
Let me tell you something that's even worse with Chuck, and I think this is something that always starts to leak out after a while with him. And I've learned it more and more the more I cover this team, the more I try and communicate with people, especially when I try and communicate with him directly. Chuck has a hard time making a decision by himself.
That's great. I'm glad our general manager has a tough time making decisions.
By himself. He will make a decision, but he needs everybody's input. And so, like, I'll give you an example. When he's talking about the Deangelo trade, I mean, I asked him that question. I said, how do you determine value of your draft picks, right? What's the valuation? Why is it okay to give up 3 draft picks for Tony Deangelo, but not give up a first-round pick for a potential superstar player? And he says, well, Ian Anderson. I look at Ian Anderson. He's our analytics guy. And he did this whole thing where he figured out that those 3 picks were the equivalent of the 39th overall pick. And that's what we traded, and we felt that was a worthy pick to trade to get Tony Deangelo. So he put it on Ian Anderson. He didn't even take it on himself. He put it on somebody else in his front office. That's what I'm saying that drives me nuts about Chuck. It's always like, oh, well, somebody else agreed with this, and this is what we did. It was somebody else. We talked about it. Like all 5-6 of us agreed on it. So of course, that's what we did. And I think that's why he gets frustrated. Like, I'm so frustrated with these questions because I'm not alone in this. Everybody else agrees. Right. But to answer your question about Tony Deangelo, I like Tony as a player. I think that he's a good player. I think he will vastly improve the power play. I think he will vastly improve getting out of the offensive zone, that first pass out of the zone or carrying the puck out of their own end. They will play less defense with Tony on the ice. Doesn't make him a good defensive defenseman. It just means that he's a good puck manager, good puck possession guy. And so they'll play less defense when he's on the ice. The one thing I'm concerned about is this, Brodes. Can he play night in, night out with Ivan Provorov against the top line of the opposition and be successful?
My guess is no. I see him more as a top 4 guy slotted in the second pairing with the power play specialist.
That's how I look at it too. How I look at it too. And who knows? Maybe something changes. Maybe he ends up being that, and somebody else gets moved into that top pair role. Who knows, right?
Well, the one thing that came to my mind is, in this new decor, is it possible? Now, maybe I'm going out on a limb here. Provorov bounces back, and maybe him and Risto are a top pairing. Right. And I just don't know if I love 2 offensive-minded guys together in Sanheim and Tony. I don't know if that makes much sense, but, Risto's size in a structured D zone, could that work? Now, I mean, I cringe thinking about it, but it's just something I'm throwing at the wall before a season begins.
And Ryan Ellis has said this, and we didn't talk about this since you hit record. We talked about it before that. Ellis told the team that he plans on playing at some point this year. Now, it's probably not going to be the beginning of the season. He's not going to be ready for start of the year. But if he's ready by, let's say, December, and that's just for shits and giggles, he's healthy. okay, are healthy enough to play. Now you put Ellis with Provorov. You have Risto and Sanheim and Cam York and Tony, and Tony's running the power play. It's a pretty solid top six. Again, assuming health. I don't know how healthy Ellis is going to be. I mean, his condition's it's degenerative, right? But nevertheless, I mean, it's an interesting way of looking at it. I think he will help the team. He's far better than, and this is the thing that drives me nuts. Is like, well, we traded Gostisbehere and now we brought this guy. He's a lot better than Shane Gostisbehere. He really is. He's a much better player. So you can't even compare the two. But from that perspective, I don't know if he's a top pair guy. I think that he's probably a middle pair guy, and that's ultimately where he would be the best fit for this team.
Couldn't agree more with you. I hate this team. Thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, man. Here we are. I have zero. It's one of those things where maybe our bar is set so low that there's no way it could be any worse than we expected, right? That's sort of where we're heading into it, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll talk soon. Anthony Sanfilippo, phenomenal job crossing broad. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Brodes, anytime, my friend.